stop. Look man, I know you want to learn the 6 tips to focus intensely. So, stop switching between screens like a maniac, close Instagram, LinkedIn, and Slack, and actually focus on this video for once. And maybe like and subscribe if you like it. Got it? Radical. Let's dive into it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where we talk tech, productivity, and philosophy. I'm also the host of the 3 Bucket podcast, where we go over global innovation, trends that we've been noticing, and ultimately, what's next for the future of our species. Now, episode 8 and 9 are coming really soon, so definitely check that out if you guys are interested. Now, over the last year, people's productivity has kind of taken a huge hit. You know, with the COVID-19 pandemic and all, people stuck in their homes, it's almost 5 times harder to actually sit down and get much of anything done. And if you haven't noticed already, that is a huge problem. See, in a world where constant stimulation is the new norm, where people can focus on average of just 45 seconds on a single task before getting distracted, those who can focus, and that too focus deeply, are the ones that are going to be at a significant advantage. An advantage that could result in you getting 10 times more done than you could previously in the same amount of time. Compound that over a year, and you are literally unstoppable. See, we often think that working longer is the key to productivity, but really that couldn't be further from the truth. The real kicker is how intensely you can focus. In his book, Deep Work, Cal Newport mentions this principle as the productivity formula. Essentially, this states that the quality of work accomplished is equal to the hours spent times the intensity of focus. Now, to break that formula down, it essentially means that to get a quality task done is dependent on both the amount of time you spend on it as well as how deeply you can concentrate. To actually get quality work done, we have to learn how to both focus properly rather than just simply throwing more time at the problem. To 10x our productivity, accomplish our goals quicker, and ultimately have more time for those that we care about the most, we must master the art of intense focus. So, here are 6 tips that you can use to ultimately skyrocket your productivity, time, and ability to truly focus. Let's dig into it. The first tip on this list is to be aware of your attentional space. One of the most notable points brought up in the book Hyperfocus by Chris Bailey is this idea of an attentional space. Now, attentional space is sort of like a table on which you can throw different things and tasks that you want to pay attention to. The more complex a task, the more attention it consumes, meaning that it takes up more space on our table. For example, writing the script for this video obviously took up a lot more attentional space than maybe listening to music, because writing obviously takes a lot more attention than simply jamming to your favorite tunes. But when this space gets too crowded, we start to have trouble getting things done. And that's when we inevitably fall into the jaws of procrastination. See, if there are too many tasks on your attentional space, your brain doesn't have enough mental resources, like willpower, to allocate to each task. And as a result, your productivity suffers. Deep work and intense focus happens when one task consumes your entire attentional space. The stage where time basically bleeds away, and the only thing that matters is the task at hand. So, be aware of what's on your attentional space, and be careful about what's on your table. To do this, I recommend having a hourly awareness chime, which is also mentioned in the book. Simply set a small notification on your phone, which basically alerts you every hour to check what's on your attentional space. Just see, hey, what's my mind thinking about? Is it thinking about the task at hand? And if not, bring it back to what you're trying to focus on. Focus is basically the act of bringing your brain repeatedly from what you aren't supposed to be doing to what you are supposed to be doing. The second tip on this list is to set an intention before you start. Now, deep focus requires one task to consume your entire attentional space. But the tricky part is choosing which task to focus on. See, if you go into a deep work session without understanding what you're trying to accomplish and why, you'll never really be able to fill your attentional space with it, because you can't focus on something when you don't know what you're focusing on. So choose just one thing to focus on and execute on that for the entire session. Something that has really helped me with setting these intentions is scheduling my hyperfocus sessions in advance. I personally have a Notion and Google Calendar workflow that helps me schedule when I'll focus, where I'll focus, and ultimately what I hope to accomplish by the end of the session. Now, for those of you guys watching, I would recommend doing something similar to that, maybe just scheduling a day or a week in advance when you'll focus and the necessary intentions behind it. And ultimately, I found that it really helps with being intentional and ultimately improving your focus. Full video on my Notion and Google Calendar setup coming soon, so ultimately if you guys want to check that out, feel free to do so. In conclusion, pick one task to focus intensely on and set an intention. Tip number 3 is to cleanse your environment. Now that you've cleaned up your attentional space by becoming aware and setting intentions, it's time to clean your physical space, your environments. If you've never done a deep focus session before, your brain will 100% start trying to find something more stimulating to fill itself with. And if you live in a distraction-infested zone where everything is more stimulating than what you're trying to work on, you can basically wave goodbye to any resemblance of intense focus. Come on guys, we all know this. Clean your room, have a separate study space with no distractions, blah blah blah. My desk is literally nothing except for my laptop, my earbuds, mouse, and monitor. Of course, people are different, and you might find that a more complicated setup works for you personally, but make sure that the most potent distractions, like your cell phone and that TV series that you binged last night, are out of the picture when you start working deeply. Also, if you find yourself getting distracted by what's on your computer rather than what's on your environment, simple extensions like Freedom and Focus Me work wonders to block the endless void that is the internet. Of course, you can always go super old school and just turn off your Wi-Fi, though of course that won't be feasible for everyone. So, TLDR is to clean your environment, and you know what, this is kind of obvious, but really just make sure that there are no distractions around you when you start working. Now, the 4th tip on this list is to practice in increments. See, back when I started to really trying to focus intensely, I literally could not sit down and focus for more than 25 minutes at a time. Whenever the thought of focusing for any time longer than that crossed my mind, it was simply too overwhelming. I literally couldn't even think about doing anything longer than that. Sometimes I would feel like really motivated and go for 90 or even 100 minutes, but that level of focus always crashed as my motivations level dropped rapidly. And as I reflected on the situation at hand, I realized that it was happening because I wasn't practicing focus in increments. I was trying to focus for hours and hours at a time without taking any breaks or gradually increasing the amount of time that I could focus. So the end lesson here for you guys is to work your way up. Start with a focus duration that feels comfortable to you as a person, and then slowly build up while taking frequent breaks. These breaks are really important, and they can also help you subconsciously consolidate all the information you've learned during your hyperfocus sessions, and then use that information to come up with new connections and insights as described in Hyperfocus. So the TLDR here is to take frequent breaks, especially when starting out, and slowly increase the amount of time that you work on to eventually meet your goal. The 5th tip on this list is to make hyperfocus a habit. The ability to focus intensely is quite nice, but the next level of that is being able to flip this mode on and off like a switch. Want to learn something in half the time? Boom, hyperfocus. Need to finish the presentation that you were too busy to work on? Boom, it's done, and with high quality in less than 1.5 hours. The ability to transition to hyperfocus as quickly as possible is, in my experience, where the most benefits lie. To gain this switch-like ability, you essentially need to make hyperfocus a habit. To focus intensely again and again and again until working intensely feels much easier than it did the first time. reducing the barrier to pursuing that kind of mode in the first place. Now, one thing that has helped me to turn hyperfocus from a one-off skill to a repeated habit is making a hyperfocus ritual. I personally listen to the same Study With Me video from StudyMD every single time I'm trying to focus intensely. So as time goes on, my brain basically links the playing of that video with the act of focusing intensely, which makes it way easier to do so. I also have a personally curated focus playlist on Spotify for this very reason, which is linked in the description if you guys are interested, and I usually turn this playlist on during my later work sessions. Ultimately, the TLDR of this tip is make sure that you're making hyperfocus a habit by maybe having a specific playlist, establishing a ritual like maybe working out and drinking a cup of coffee, or just doing something that's uniquely associated with the act of focusing so your brain learns to link that action with hyperfocus. Now, the final tip on this list is to keep track of your sessions. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I always seem to think that I've worked for longer than I actually do. Like, sometimes I'll think that I worked for an astounding hour or two, but in reality it's only been 20 minutes. So what I've learned is that if you're going to be improving your ability to focus, you need to find some way to measure how long you can focus in the first place, and that too in an accurate way. And that essentially helps you to track your progress over a period of time and see, hey, how much did I improve my focus level today? Did I go up or down, and why is that? Personally, I use a tool called Clockify to get the job done here. And no, unfortunately, this is not sponsored. So because of Clockify, I receive weekly reports on how much time I spent per task, and ultimately how that time changed throughout the day, and then I can use that data to better improve the quality and the focus of my working sessions. Of course, if you're not a data freak like me, you might find this technique a little bit excessive. In that case, simply getting a timer and jotting down a couple of notes on when you get distracted, or maybe even working together with an accountability partner could be helpful to you as well. The bottom line of this video is that while we each focus in our own different and unique ways, the underlying principles of deep work and hyperfocus remain the same. By training your mind to perform at the utmost capacity, by filling your attentional space with one thing and nothing else, you put yourself miles ahead of where you were yesterday. By putting in the effort to focus and set intentions, you allow yourself to get things done quicker, improve the quality of your craft, and ultimately spend your time on the things that you care for the most. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope those tips were helpful. Let me know what you guys think of this in the comments below, and if you like this video, consider liking and subscribing, and yeah. Anyway, until next time, guys, see ya.